If you're a newbie looking to make money in real estate in 2025, I'm going to walk you through what resources you can trust and what you should avoid like the plague. Let's dive right in. If you're like me, you're probably a little bit of a skeptic, so I want to encourage you that you can let your guard down. I don't have a course or anything to sell you on today's video. In fact, I don't even have any sort of a training that we offer to newbies. The folks that I work with are established real estate investors that have at least done a deal or two and are prepared to start marketing. My whole goal with this channel is to be the resource that I was looking for when I first got started over 10 years ago. To start, we need to figure out what vertical it is that you're actually interested in learning. Are you looking for more the low money transactional side? Things like wholesaling houses, getting your real estate license, maybe doing some leasing. Are you looking for more capital intensive things like flipping houses or wholesaling properties? Maybe what got you interested in real estate was the idea of passive income. So you're looking at things like buy and hold real estate investing, owning apartment complexes, maybe even self-storage, mobile home parks, or becoming a private lender. You could even be looking into more the hospitality side of things like Airbnb and VRBO. Maybe you've got a great space that you're not using all the time and you're looking to monetize it. This list goes on and on when it comes to investing in other people's projects through something like syndications, developing, etc. So my first experience share that I want to give you guys is that I recommend you head on over to biggerpockets.com, create a free account, and start to really just poke around. BiggerPockets was actually how I got my start all the way back in 2014. You can find my old dumb questions in the forums of like, I have credit, but no money. What do I do? Right? So it's a phenomenal resource with everything from forums and podcasts to blog posts. They even do some live events and some in-person meetups. Now, there are a couple cons. One, because it is primarily forum centric, you've got some people that can be a bit abrasive and aren't necessarily kind or welcoming to new folks. So you have to have a little bit of tough skin, and it's important to take any responses or information or advice you get with a grain of salt. There are people that will tell you something absolutely doesn't work that might work perfectly for you. So it's a good idea to go to kind of bounce things off and see what comes back. They're also a little funny to me because the community as a whole has always been very anti-education, very don't pay for advice. Then they got bought, I think, by private equity. And now it's like, well, education sucks unless it's one of ours or one of our events. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. There are a couple resources on BiggerPockets you've got to check out. One is their calculators. They're like calculators for rental properties and fix and flips are pretty solid. They're pretty in-depth, so make sure you check those out. One bonus resource that's kind of hitched to BiggerPockets. On Facebook, there's an investor group for the Real Estate Rookie podcast. That's a great place for those like super newbie type questions. My advice would be to get a rough idea of what vertical it is that you're actually interested in, and then start to go poke around the forums on that topic. What kind of problems or challenges are people running into? What can you just kind of pick up through observing? The second thing that you're going to want to start to look into is how do I find a really, really good deal? That's the whole point of this YouTube channel. All of this starts with getting a good deal. If you want to flip a property, well, you've got to buy a property for less than what it's worth. If you're looking for a listing, you've got to find an owner that wants to sell. If you're looking for a buy and hold deal, location matters and making your money when you buy matters. I've put out hundreds of YouTube videos, which I realize it does not make any sense for you to go through and watch everything I've ever put out. But I did condense the most important stuff into an ebook I wrote that's totally free that I will link to down below. We'll kind of throw up some screen grabs of that so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The important thing is now that we know the vertical we're interested in, how do we go about contacting the owners of places that might make sense for that to see if we can't find a good deal. I've got a bonus resource I shot on what I call stress-free wholesaling that I'll link to as well. No opt-in or anything. It's literally a free course with a blog post, Somebody asked me how I got my start, so I shot an entire course on how to do exactly what I did with like wild detail, including tracking sheets, job descriptions, comp plans, and stuff as you start to scale the business. I've got a rule that I won't sell newbies anything. My thought process has always been I'd rather help people that already have the dream than be the guy that's selling it. Chances are, if you're watching this, you've already got a little bit of the dream, so that resource should help you get at least your first deal done. Make sure you stick around to point 5, where I'm going to walk you through the reasons 99% of newbie investors never make a dollar. The third resource that I want to recommend are vendor podcasts. So as you start to get more into the weeds on this stuff, InvestorCarrot.com used to run the CarrotCast. I think it's now called Evergreen. Deal Machine has their podcast, and Simply has one of theirs, where they invite some of their most successful clients and well-known experts on to share stories, wins, losses, and lessons. I think yours truly has been on most of these at this point, if not a couple times, and I can't recommend this resource enough. One thing that I do just want to throw out as a caveat, somebody's telling you what they want to tell you about their own life. I wouldn't fall in love with anybody based off of any of these, but if you're taking the time to listen to these episodes, your goal should be to pick up just 1 or 2 things that you can apply from each one that you consume. We've talked about getting clear on what you actually want to do, on finding those good deals, and I want to just recap a little bit on analyzing if it's actually a good deal or not. So Bigger Pockets calculators are fantastic. Dealcheck.io is a free tool that helps you run comps, estimate repairs, and figure out if you'll actually make money on something or not. The third one, if you're looking into buy and hold investing, fellow YouTuber, good friend of mine, Chandler David Smith, has a rental property calculator. That's a fantastic resource and a free app that you should check out as well. Once you've figured out what vertical you think you want to be in, and you've started to look at how to find a good deal, you're going to run into topical questions like, okay, how do I fill out a contract? Or how do I put my property on Airbnb? Or how should I paint a kitchen during a remodel? YouTube is a fantastic place to go for those really topical questions. I would avoid, though, falling into the trap of just consuming content for the sake of consuming content. When I got my start, you can find it back on Bigger Pockets in the forums. It was very much bull in a china shop. Like, okay, I've decided I'm going to start out wholesaling. How do I pull a list? What kind of contract do I use? How do I analyze a deal? How do I talk to sellers? Each one of those would be a great YouTube search. You could also check out free investor Facebook groups, as well as things like the Bigger Pockets forums, but you're going to run into some of that local bully type stuff. I think you'll learn more if you take the time to actually formulate your questions and research the answers to them versus just expecting somebody to spoon feed you. In fact, you'll find that pretty often on forums where people are like, hey, did you even use the search function? I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of give ChatGPT a plug here as well. It can do a pretty good job at giving you high level summaries, and then you can kind of explore or probe it with more detailed questions. So you might start out with how do I put a property on Airbnb? And then ask it more detailed things, and it'll pull from resources like YouTube and forums for you if you're looking to be spoon-fed a little bit more. The unfortunate reality of those of you watching this video is 99% of you will probably not actually do anything in the real estate space. I've been at this for 10 years. That ebook I mentioned earlier has been downloaded over 20,000 times. I literally put my personal cell phone number in that ebook when I wrote it. And I was like, this might be a mistake. And over those 20,000 downloads, I think I've gotten 3 phone calls at this point. So most people kind of romanticize the idea of change, but don't actually want to go through the pain of making it happen. If you follow these steps at all, you will be dramatically above the curve. In my experience, most newbies don't show up at all. On most of my YouTube videos, I'll link to ccfmastermind.com, which is our community for folks that are doing deals or have at least done one. And often I'll get applicants that are like, I've never done a deal. I have no money. Here's a little bit of my story. I just want to see something in my life change. And I'll personally call those folks. Often they don't remember who I am. They don't know why I'm reaching out or why I booked the call, or they even ask me to take them off my list when they're the person that reached out to me, provided their contact info, and even picked a time asking me to call them. It's one of the reasons why I personally no longer call those leads. A member of my team reaches out with free resources because 9 times out of 10, they don't even remember booking the call. One danger that I see newbies fall into is what I lovingly call like the homie hoppers. They'll go from one YouTuber to another, to another, to another, often spending money or buying their courses along the way. Anytime I'm talking to somebody and they mention like, oh, I've been in this group and that group and this group and that group, I'm like, bro, what are you looking for? Like, I'm not looking to just be another notch in your bedpost. Like, what were you looking for that you didn't find? How did you show up in those communities? Did you apply it or not? Most newbies are looking for an easy button, and the unfortunate thing I found about making money is it does actually take work. A lot of newbies also make the mistake of giving up way too soon, or maybe even underestimating the amount of work that it would take before they started. On my first flip, I lost over $7,500. Literally had to pay somebody to buy that house for me. That would have been a great excuse to throw in the towel. I've had the horror stories of the eviction where they flooded my house, causing $64,000 in damage. That would have been a good excuse to get out of rental properties. As an agent, I've worked to find a seller a property that they were looking for, negotiated them a great deal, and then had them just decide not to buy the property for no reason and throw me $200 like that was a fair consolation prize. That would be a great reason to get frustrated with being an agent. It's always going to take more time and more effort than you think it is when you first start out. I think the most sinister thing that I see happen to newbies is they fall in love with somebody off of YouTube or podcasts or the internet from ads or something, buy into that person's course, and then they can't afford to do what it is they actually wanted to learn. If you spend all your money buying an Airbnb course, well, there goes your money for a down payment or for furnishing or remodels. I'm a firm believer that if you're thinking about investing with or doing business with somebody on the education side, you apply their free content first. If you can't generate results off their free content, I promise you whatever's behind their paywall absolutely sucks. If you have any questions about coaches, vendors, or tactics that you're hearing about in the space, I'm volunteering to be the person that answers your dumb questions. You can drop them in the comments below. I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but I've been at this for 10 years. I can tell you who I trust and why I might not trust somebody else. I can tell you what tools I've used, some with success and some with not. If it's anything like sensitive, I'll just be like, yo, email me. But I want to be a resource for you guys. So if you have questions, I would rather you ask before you do something that you can't undo. Some of the best investments you'll make are not investing with somebody or not buying a project that you shouldn't have bought. My name is Ryan Dossey. I appreciate my newbies hanging out with me today. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Talk to you guys next time.